This is Dads Watching Sports. It's the show by dads who watch sports, for dads who watch sports, or just dads in general. Here are the dads with a plan for every hashtag dad life and sports fan, Kyle Castles and Michael Draper.
And welcome in to Dads Watching Sports. He is Kyle Castles. I am Michael Draper, and we are the dads who watch sports. How is everybody doing? It is Sunday, May the 23rd, Kyle, episode 65, which we're very excited about. For those of you who normally catch our show, obviously we did not have a show last week. We'll get into it in just a minute. But Kyle, I missed seeing your beautiful face last week.
I don't know about beautiful, but I missed you as well. I mean, it's no fun to go a couple weeks without seeing you.
I know, right? And we came off, one of our best episodes of the year, of course, with the wives joining us on Mother's Day. So, here we are. We just couldn't repeat. That's what it was. We were like, man, we just can't live up to what they were doing. And so,
you never want to follow greatness, and so we just didn't.
That's right. No doubt about it. Friend of the show, Jelani Brown, says the Hawks just got the dub. We're ecstatic. Jelani, yes. Atlanta Hawks got a 1-0 lead on the New York Knicks. Just happened. I'm sure Chris LeBron is probably crying in his closet somewhere as his Knicks finally make it back to the playoffs. And now they're down 0-1 to Trae Young and the Hawks. We'll get to that in just a little bit. We'll have some NBA talk. We got a great guest coming on tonight, Kyle. Mo Murphy, the Up in Flames podcast, also with the Off the Ball Network. Mo's going to join us. He was a part of our fan episode, if you remember back a couple of months ago. Mo's a big Ohio State fan, so we'll talk a little bit about that. He's also a new dad for the second time. He's got a new baby boy, so we'll talk to Mo about that newborn stage. Kyle, do you miss the newborn stage?
Right now, yeah. To let the listeners know, I'm single dadding it for 5 days. I'm in the middle of it. I'm finishing up day 2. Lauren and Jack are out in California for another round of treatment for his allergies, and so I'm here with Wrigley, the 6-year-old, and Hannah, the 1-year-old. And if Hannah was a newborn, she'd sleep a little more and require a little less attention because she wouldn't be able to walk and move and get into stuff.
That's true. I had not thought about that. So you have a definitely different perspective than I do. I would not go back to the newborn stage at all because of the lack of sleep, which I guess we don't really get it anyways. But anyways, let's move forward with the show. We do have another comment here. Let me see. Let's go. Kenneth Cotterell says, Hawks, let's go. There we go.
A lot of Hawks fans.
Hawks fans, I know. Where's our Knicks fans at? Jump in, Knicks fans, if you want to say you guys are going to continue on with the series. So, Kyle, we did miss last week, and it wasn't for bad reason or anything like that. Although the episode with the wives was fantastic, and we probably couldn't have topped it anyways. But we were out of town. Unfortunately, my wife's grandfather passed away last Sunday. So that morning we knew that this was coming. And we had I talked to you earlier in the week and just said, hey, there's a chance we may not be able to do the show. Well, it happened Sunday morning. So we drove to Florida all day on Sunday, and Grandpa Al was his name. And, when you're you're dating somebody or even newly married, you always want to kind of win over the family. You want to impress the parents, the grandparents, etc. And my kind of fondest memory of her grandfather, and it's applicable to this show, is he would always kind of comment or compliment me on my dad behavior, I guess you could say, like helping out with the kids and doing things with the kids around. And he would always say something about like, when I was a kid, my dad was off working and it was just my mom, and I think he was a single child. And so he said, I spent a lot of time with my mom. And he said, I see you with these kids and how involved you are and active you are. And it's great. And so that, like, hearing that from kind of the patriarch of that family was something that I'll always remember. And he was definitely a good guy and will be missed. But this happens. The whole time leading up to it, we're like, okay, what do we do with the kids? Obviously, we're probably going to take them with us. We're going to Florida for who knows how long. Probably going to end up taking them with us. But what do we do with the service? They're 4 and 2. How much conversation do you have about kind of what's happened? Obviously, with our faith and our beliefs, we talk about, going to Jesus and being with Jesus and those things like that. But I'm curious, and I know y'all probably haven't had a whole lot of experience, and hopefully neither of us will have a whole lot. But what's y'all's kind of philosophy on those types of conversations? And then I'll kind of catch you up what we ended up doing.
Yeah. Well, we actually had that conversation, not near as serious as y'all, a few weeks ago. I think it was the week of Mother's or the week before Mother's Day, maybe. So my father-in-law, he has a few acres of land and he has 3 donkeys. One of the so you know this, but our listeners that don't live in Middle Tennessee, there was a stretch there that felt like a couple weeks where it was just storm after storm after storm. Well, one of the donkeys just got really upset. I mean, they don't like the storms anyways, and they go hide in the barn. But one of them just got so upset she quit eating, and she ended up dying. And so we had that conversation about Sarah the donkey and how she, that was that really the first life-death conversation you could have with the boys. And they do pretty well, quite frankly, with it. When you're just very matter of fact, just, there comes a point in everybody's life that they die.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that mama and daddy are dying anytime soon. Like,
right.
You're not going to die anytime soon. Grammy and Papa and Nana and Pop and Pawpaw, none of that. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but it will happen to all of us.
Yep.
And so we talk about, going to heaven and all of that. Even with the 6-year-old, got into the conversation about salvation. I know this isn't a religious podcast, but got into the conversation about salvation and
right
means and how we get to heaven. And so it was a good conversation.
Sure.
The next time they went out to Paw Paw's house, he showed them where Sarah was buried. And so not a funeral, but still that's our first kind of entrance into this world. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we ended up doing is, so we got the call early on Sunday morning, and my wife, we really kind of just started getting things together. And so Suzanne is packing stuff up, and I just gave her, a few minutes to kind of be by herself and kind of collect herself. And so I just brought him upstairs and just said, hey, here's kind of what happened. And, now he's no longer here, but he's obviously in heaven. And she took it fine. I mean, I think, that those things were starting to kind of sink in.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately for all of us, we knew, obviously Hayden, our 2-year-old, has no idea about any of this and no idea what's going on. And we knew that there was going to be a point in time once we got to their house where he asked where Grandpa was. And we had been there, I don't know, maybe half an hour, and everybody was sitting around a table, and he did. And it got everybody all choked up, and we felt so bad. Mm-hmm. But he's also 2 years old. There's not a whole lot you can do about that.
Yeah.
So we were on this trip, we go and we spend a lot of time with her family, and it was great to see all their family and whatnot. And then funeral's on Wednesday. We decide her parents had been down there for a long time leading up to this, and we were going to kind of head back as well. So we all decide we're going to leave Wednesday afternoon. So funeral, we leave Wednesday afternoon. We're going to drive halfway. So we're making our way through northern Florida into southern Georgia. And our son, Hayden, begins to he'd always kind of had a little cough, but just begins coughing and hacking and just just uncontrollable. Then he freaks himself out because he can't really breathe that well, starts crying. And so he's going into a full meltdown. Mm-hmm. I, with my new job, didn't have PTO yet. So I'm technically working during all this time. So I'm on a work call on my phone in the car, driving, got it myself muted, and he is just losing his mind. So I just hang up and I'll explain this later.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up having to pull over at a gas station because he was becoming so uncontrollable that he was having a really hard time breathing. And as a parent, that's so scary. Even though he's 2 years old, he's kind of out of that stage where anything can become fatal. But it's just, it's still a pretty scary thing. We finally calm him down. He stops coughing and stops kind of gasping. And so we're like, all right, well, we'll just kind of play this by ear. He's had croup before. And so that's always at the top of our mind is like, if he starts coughing uncontrollably, it's like, oh man, here, are we heading down that road again? So we get to the hotel, we get dinner and whatnot, we get him fed, put him down to bed. He's asleep maybe an hour, wakes up again, just coughing his head off, gagging, ends up vomiting. And we're like, we got to take him somewhere. We originally actually called the paramedics because we were a little concerned because he was really like struggling to breathe. So we called the paramedics. They say, we'll be there in 10 minutes. All right, we're at this hotel in the middle of Macon, Georgia, which we had already been told that was not necessarily the best probably place to stop for the night, but we're like, we're going to do it. So we're in Macon, Georgia. We call the ambulance. They say, we'll be there in 10 minutes. We go downstairs to the hotel, tell the guy what's going on. We're waiting outside. 10 minutes goes by. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Finally, at 30 minutes, Suzanne picks up the phone, calls them again, says, where are they? They said, well, they're still on their way. We had to send them somebody from like 20 minutes away. We say, forget it. We're 15 minutes from a children's hospital. We got him in the car, drove him to the hospital, and got some treatment. So on the way home from the funeral, we make a little detour to the ER on Wednesday night. Everybody got about 3 hours of sleep, and then he was just miserable on the way home. I mean, was feeling a little bit better, but had not had any sleep.
Yeah.
And it was just miserable.
So I want to ask what they found out or what you found out at the hospital, but I don't want to pry.
No, it was croup. It was croup again. It was kind of the early stages, so he didn't have to do like the breathing treatments. He just got a steroid. And even still, I mean, like he didn't go to church today because he coughed a lot last night, and Suzanne took him to the doctor this morning, and they're like, hey, this is just kind of how it works. We'll just kind of, just continue to monitor him, and we'll kind of see what happens. But
you'll probably be on breathing treatment soon.
Yeah. It was a rough thing. All right, Kyle. So, we go on this road trip, we're doing our thing, and a couple of things that really kind of stood out to me. Number one, I don't know if you know this yet or not, Kyle, but everybody's obviously aware of COVID-19, that pandemic that we're finally kind of getting out of. But did you know that there's another pandemic across this country, Kyle?
I mean, I hear it all the time, obesity, right?
Well, okay. Not obesity. And that is, Kyle, the pandemic I'm talking about is people that drive slow in the fast lane, because that happened the entire time we drove down to Florida and back. How do people not know the left lane is the fast lane? And if you are not going fast, get over. Don't stay in the fast lane.
Well, define fast.
At least the speed limit, if not 5 over. Come on.
Now, come on, Mike. I know you. You're not just staying at 5 over.
Well, but still, when you're in the lane, what just drives me crazy, if you're in the far left lane and let's say the speed limit is 70 and you're going 72 and someone comes up directly behind you, what's the courteous thing to do?
Well, the courteous thing to do is to move over. But
exactly. Why is that so hard?
The people were not raised like us.
Why is that so hard to move over and get out of the way, let somebody go on? Especially when 3 cars in front of them all went directly around you and cut around you, basically saying you're going too slow, get the heck out of the way.
I don't understand. I can tell you that it's not something that I enjoy, but it's also something that I don't whine about because I don't complain like you do.
Well, I complain, and especially when I've got very few hours of sleep and I'm ready to get home and somebody's going 65 in the left lane when the speed limit is 70 and I want to go 85. Like, get over out of the way
right now.
Right.
Yeah. I don't blame you. Here's what it is. It is what we have built as a society where it's all about me.
It's right. It is about me. To get out of my way.
Well, no, not about you. It's they are focused on themselves and they don't really care about anything else. I'm driving. I'm doing the speed I want to do in the lane I want to do it in. And I don't really care.
Yeah. Well, and then you come up to the random like.
And Michael has frozen and Mike.
What was that, Kyle? I'm not. I think you're frozen. Am I frozen? Are we frozen? Are you there, Kyle?
I'm back. I was the whole time. I don't know if you can hear me.
All I heard was that Michael is frozen. There was something about people being in their own zone and all that.
Yeah. Well, I was done, and then you froze, and I just tried to kind of keep it going, thinking you'd come back, and then I disappeared too.
Well, there you go. Well, that's producing on the fly. At least this time, my smoke detector is not going off in the background. So
I don't have to make fun of you while you change.
That's right. Absolutely. All right. Well, let's move on. Really quickly, when you're going through, when you're on a road trip, you got to have the necessities, Kyle.
Absolutely.
So in order to survive with what you guys have in 3 children in the car, what are the top 5 road trip necessities to survive?
So the very first thing is I got to have that screen in the van with a movie on it. And because dear God, if I don't, they don't shut up.
Yeah.
So that is the number one thing.
I'll agree.
Number 2 thing, and I cheat here with 2 and 3, but I don't really care. Number 2, snacks.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand to stop once I get on the road. So let's have snacks ready to go. So when they're hungry, we don't have to pull over into a gas station and grab a snack. They're there. Let's go.
There's one stop. We could do the gas, the snacks, and the food all in one. And the bathroom all in one.
Yep. All that.
All in one.
Exactly. Drinks is number 3. And we got to be careful on how many drinks we dole out.
Yes.
I don't need to be stopping.
Right.
And it's only water because sugar, man, you give my kids some kind of sugary drink, they're peeing about every 30 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it never fails. No matter how many times you say, don't drink at all because we're not stopping. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. And then, we're what, 3 to 4 hours away from, well, I guess you're not, but I'm 3 to 4 hours away from my parents. Right. And so on a trip like that, I can use movies and be done. But when we went to Disney a couple of years ago, Lauren made these binders with all sorts of activities so that when the movie quit working, here come the binders out with coloring pages and whatever else. I don't know.
Yeah.
My oldest loves mazes. So he had some mazes in there that he could do. So activity books are a must. And then the last thing that I have to have are headphones for myself, because Mama goes to sleep about 20 minutes into any drive. If it's longer than 20 minutes, she'll be out. I got to put headphones in so I don't have to hear stuff. I'll just
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And I have a lot of the same stuff that you did. The only one that I've got differently is, and I don't know if this is a Suzanne Draper original or if this is stole this from someone else. But what she's done on a couple of times where we've had long drives is she has taken either toys that our kids have never seen or played with, or actually gotten new toys and wrapped them up. And so they get to unwrap a toy.
Yeah.
It's a new toy and it's a distracting toy.
On the trip to Disney. We did them. Yeah, so that's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a doubt. All right, Kyle, before we get to our break, and I'm excited about our guest coming up after the break. Before we get there, Kyle, did you know that a necessity for me, whether it's a road trip or just every day around the house, is my Lawnmower 3.0 from Manscaped? Did you know that?
Oh, different type of lawnmower. Sorry.
That's right.
Gotcha.
That is absolutely right. So support for Dads Watching Sports is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, Kyle. We're going below the waist. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. Manscaped is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. We have an exclusive offer for our listeners, 20% off and free shipping when using the code OFFTHEBALL, no pun intended, at manscaped.com. Off the ball at manscaped.com. Always good to talk about Manscaped, Kyle.
Absolutely. I love Manscaped.
Me and you both. Well, you know what I love better than that, Kyle, and that's having a guest. And we got Mo Murphy coming up after this break. We're going to talk dad life. We're going to talk Buckeyes. We're going to talk NBA, a little bit of everything. We'll be right back with Mo after the break. We'll see you then. Big news in the Dads Watching Sports podcasting world. You've heard us mention it on the show already. We are now part of the Off the Ball Podcast Network. We're super excited to be joining the team of great shows, hopefully adding a little dad flavor to the mix. You can check out Off the Ball Podcast and Off the Ball Network on all your social media sites. Just search Off the Ball Network. And while you're there, give them a like and a follow. You won't regret it. We're back here on Dad's Watching Sports. Michael Draper and Kyle Castles. Kyle alluded to it before the break. We got a great guest coming up. We've been trying to get him on the show for a while, and whether it's our schedule or his schedule or something that didn't work out, and we're glad to. He was a part of our fan experience episode a couple of months ago where we talked about what it is to be a fan, passing fanhood down. What team are you a fan of? He's a big Ohio State Buckeye guy. So Mo Murphy from the Up and Flamz podcast, part of the Off the Ball Network, joining us now. Mo, how's it going, man?
What's going on, fellas? I've been looking forward to this all day. I'm a huge fan of the show. I pretty much watch it pretty much every Sunday. You know, I always like to comment, listen, but I'm really a fan of y'all show. So I love looking forward to Dad's Watching Sports on Sunday. So now that I actually get to be on here, I've been excited all day.
Awesome, man. Well, we are a big fan of what you do and everything involved with Off the Ball Network as well, and we're just glad to be a part of it. So tell everybody and tell us just a little bit about yourself and about your family.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a husband, father of two. I'm currently in the Navy, stationed out here in Corpus Christi, Texas. Just had I got a 3-year-old and then just had a newborn, 3 weeks ago. Yesterday was 3 weeks ago. I don't know, I don't like talking about myself that much. So it's like, I mean, I'm in the Navy, been in for almost 6 years. Love it, hate it, a little bit of both. Yeah. It's the military. But it definitely created a better environment, I almost think I always feel like there's a purpose, and whether your purpose is to do 20 years or this was a pit stop for something else. And I feel like, especially looking at it now, being part of Off the Ball Network, creating content, I probably would have never did that had I not been in the military and just kind of grew up a little bit, had a family. So I just feel like even if the military was my purpose for whatever's next, I'm grateful that I did it. Like I said, I have my good days, have my bad days. That's regular job life, regular dad life, regular husband life. So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, I just don't like talking about myself that much, honestly.
You did a great job, man. And first off, thank you for your service. We really appreciate that. How's the weather down in Texas?
It's hot.
Yeah.
It's not very hot. It's in the 80s for the most part right now, but it's May. It's the middle of May, leaning to June, July, and August. It's expected to be high 90s on a consistent basis. So, I mean, it's still hot, 80-something degrees. I was living in California, so sunny California, San Diego. Typically 70s, low 80s for the most part, throughout the year. So now, and it's a different type of heat. It's being from Florida, I'm used to it, but I don't know, since I've been away from Florida for so long, was in California and then was in Washington State, it's something I'm not used to anymore. So it's definitely an adjustment.
Yeah, it is without doubt. We lived down there for a couple of years, and yeah, man, it's that dry heat that it'll get you. No doubt about it.
Well, speaking of adjusting, you say 3 weeks ago you had your second, and so how is adjusting back to the newborn stage? You got 1 to 3 years old, you kind of got out of it, and now you're right back. How's it going?
It's going good. I could definitely say I don't think I want another kid. I think my wife fully agrees with me. I love the kids, but it's having my 3-year-old daughter who's pretty much, she was independent. She was, I'd have to turn the TV on for her or whatever, but she entertains, potty trained, all that. So it's didn't have to change diapers, was far removed from that. So now going back to, a baby being fully dependent on either myself or my wife, it's definitely been an adjustment. The real adjustment actually comes this week. I finally go back to work. This will be my first day going back since he's been born. So that'll be the real adjustment. My wife having to do it by herself throughout the day. And everything that's coming with it. She's going to go back to work. She's going to get back in school. So, all the adjustments are coming, but I mean, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I wanted a boy, got my boy. So I'm good. I got a baby girl. I got a boy. I'm good for the most part now.
Without a doubt. I know when you and I talked for our fan episode and we talked about passing down our fanhood, you talked about my daughter is kind of into it, but I can't wait to have a son and pass down my love of the Buckeyes to him. So I know you're looking forward to doing that.
Oh, 100%. I can't wait. It is going to start this football season come September. Every Saturday, I'm going to put him in some Buckeyes gear, and we go sit there. I did it with my daughter when she was little, too. I mean, she likes Ohio State. She likes wearing Ohio State stuff. I don't know. I think she enjoys watching sports a little bit, but I think it's just more because that's what I'm doing as opposed. I mean, she's 3. Like, everybody they don't develop that kind of interest yet necessarily. Right. But, yeah, I can't wait to raise my son. Hopefully I don't force it on him too much that he decides to like Michigan. Because then we might have to have another conversation and he might have to stay with his grandparents or something because that's not accepted in the house.
No, absolutely. Yeah, that's you got to be careful about over pushing it, but you got to let them know, like, hey, this is where we roll. We're not getting down with that other team. Yeah. So you talked about your daughter. So how has she adjusted to life with little brother?
She's adjusted with him perfectly. Honestly, like she's 3, so she wants to do a little too much. She always wants to be hands-on, help out with everything from changing diapers to giving him a bath to anything. Like if he needs help, if he's crying, she could be in a room. He starts crying. She comes peeking out there. Why is he crying? If he's asleep, she knows to be quiet, but at the same time, she knows when he wakes up. I guess it's just been, she's acted out a little bit. It's been an adjustment of, the attention. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's just been the biggest adjustment as a parent. Also is like all the attention was on her. So trying to make sure that she still gets that correct amount of attention, the right amount of attention that she still feels important. To me, that's been the biggest adjustment. But as far as her with him, she wants to hold him. So we allow her almost free reign. I mean, she doesn't carry him around the house or anything, always supervised. We don't put him in a room with her by herself because, little toys and she doesn't still understand everything.
Sure.
But, I mean, she's adjusted perfect. Like, she adores the heck out of him. Like, she's amazed by looking at him doing something new every day. So,
yep. Yeah, I remember that whole phase, Kyle, and I'm sure you do too, where they the older sibling is definitely like, well, where's all the time gone where you were spending with me? And I remember it was fairly early on, probably a month into our son's life, where we were like, we need to do something with our daughter, like a mom and dad and daughter date or whatever. And so I think we took her to like Disney on Ice or something. But it was just like some specific time that we carved out to say, hey, we're going to leave the little brother at home with grandma, and we're going to go do this and make sure you get your alone time with mom and dad. So
yeah, and that's really hard when you have 3 because all 3 of them need your attention. And how do you? And so really what we've done, and we're having a conversation here, I guess. So what we've done is we've used bedtime. So Mama will put Hannah down, the 1-year-old, put her down, and then we will alternate each night who we spend time with at bedtime to just get some one-on-one with one of the parents.
Yeah.
On a daily basis. My mom was up here a few weeks ago. I don't know, maybe a month ago. And we were talking to her, just the kids are insane, right? And she said something that kind of struck, and she just said, they just want your attention. And we were like, you know what? You're right. And we're not doing a good job because we have 3 of them, and we're just trying to keep all 3 of them from, tearing the house apart or killing themselves, right?
Yeah.
So we're not really like giving them that one-on-one attention that they probably need, and so we're doing something a little different now. So that's that leads us to the next couple questions. I'll pair them up. So Mo, like best part of being a dad, toughest part of being a dad. What are those for you?
I mean, it's tough to like just. The best part of being a dad. I mean, like being a dad is great. Like it's got its ups and downs, but just being a dad, period, and just seeing, I guess the best part is seeing the growth in your kid. Like there's nothing more special than seeing, and especially like my daughter's at an age where she watches TV, she picks up everything that's said, she understands, but like a little story, like I wasn't around, but she said it in front of my mom, she's in town, and my wife. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is a catastrophe. Like, you're 3 years old. Where does that come from? Like, but it's stuff like that like, it's just amazing. Like, you just see the growth and, right before I'm setting up to do the podcast, and she was like, you can't do it. It's not 100% yet. And I'm like, you don't even know what 100% is. Like, what percent is it then? So it's just little stuff of seeing the growth and them, you know, like, especially with her putting things together and just the way she can talk and communicate. So, I mean, the best part of being a dad is just seeing the growth and, you know, we have social media and we have ways of taking pictures. So you scroll down memory lane and see where y'all were 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago when she was a baby. Oh, I missed this stage and things like that. So it's like where you see she's at now and just continue to see the growth of the kids and how he is at 3 weeks old, a little more active, up a little more, you know, obviously he's 3 weeks old. Like there's really not much he's doing, but looking around, wondering, you know, why y'all brought us into this god awful place. But, you know, that's all they do at that age.
Am I going to eat?
Yeah, and when am I going to eat? I mean, you know, the life of a baby, they cry like they have it so hard. All you got to do is eat, sleep, and poop.
That's
and
right.
We take care of the rest. But the toughest part, I mean, it's just the daily stuff. Like, the toughest part now, to me, it wasn't that tough with one. Like, you go through the daily struggles of being a new dad and figuring out what your kid likes, how to appeal to your kid. But then now, like I said, I mean, we went over, it's just balancing time of being like, you know, a husband, a wife. I mean, a husband to my wife, a dad to my kids, then work, you know, all that stuff, making sure the network goes right along with Chris. Some of the new opportunities have come up. So it's just the toughest part of being a dad is once you become a dad, your whole life balance changes.
Yeah.
And you don't have that time to yourself anymore. And a lot of people who aren't parents don't understand that. Like, some of that alone, just relaxed time, like, you really look forward to that hour by yourself. Like, you don't mind, you know, if your wife wants to take the kids to the store, you don't mind staying back, even if they're gone for 30 minutes. Like, that 30 minutes means a lot to you throughout the day. So it's just kind of the time management and realizing that, like, you don't have the free time that you once had. Like, even when you're married with no kids, like, I was married first with no kids, and it's like, okay, I give her some of my time, take some time to myself. It's just us two. We do our own thing, whatever, come together, watch a movie, whatever, and you call it a day. But now, like, that won't be enough. Got to make sure the kids are good, and even when they are good, you got to continue to make sure they're good and still make sure she's okay and y'all are okay. And then, so, you know, it's like it's just balancing life. Like, it gets tougher being a dad, in my opinion, because it just adds another thing to have to balance your life with.
Yep.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think one thing that I often have thought is, you know, even if you feel like you yourself are not an overly selfish person or whatever, like, you don't realize, like you were saying, like, there are times where you have to be like, man, I've got to take some time for myself. And you try to be as selfless as you can, but there also has to be those times where you're like, yes, like you said, yes, please take them to the store. I need half an hour just to breathe. With everything else going on. And I know our wives would probably say the exact same thing, that they appreciate that as well.
It goes their way too. So it's,
sure.
it's definitely the same way. I think that's the toughest part between husbands and wives, is just that finding your alone time, finding your, like, to keep your mental sanity. Cause all we do is focus and make sure everybody else is good. And the wives do the same thing. Like, in their mind, they put themselves last. They make sure the husbands are good. They make sure the kids are good. And if everybody's good, then they go to sleep at night knowing, okay, the household is good, I'm good, but are you really? And then you start, you know, so you do need some time to yourself just to, you know, whatever it is. I'll send my wife to go get her nails done, whatever. Just, if you want to go to the store by yourself or watch the kids, like, it's just little stuff. You never realize how much little things, going to fill up the gas tank without kids is just, and going to grab something to eat, like, that's alone time, and that could be enough sometimes.
No doubt. So Chris jumps in and says, eat, sleep, poop, repeat. That's right. That's the Brock Lesnar baby way. All right, Mo. So Father's Day's coming up. We had our wives on 2 weeks ago on Mother's Day. I had a great episode with them. But Father's Day is coming up. What if you could script out, like, this is an ideal, picture perfect Father's Day for you? What does that day look like?
I mean, I don't ask for much at all, so whatever gifts, there's no really gift. I don't really care about that stuff. I feel like you celebrate so many birthdays, and once you become a dad, it's just another date, Father's Day and anniversaries and all that. You run out of stuff to even ask for. I mean, it's just one of those wake up and just a good day. Like, I would just hope like Father's Day could just be a good day. Like, just because it's Father's Day, your responsibilities don't change. It's not a day off of being a dad. So it'd just be one of those like, man, I hope I wake up and just have a good day. My wife doesn't have to cater to me because it's Father's Day. I mean, if she does something nice, cool. Maybe she make breakfast. And then, Father's Day is always around the time of the NBA playoffs. Usually it's like the NBA finals by now. So just be able to maybe, drink a little bit, watch the game, and just live a regular Sunday. Like, just a regular old Sunday in a sense. Just a good day. Like, I hope today is just a good day, I don't want to get into it with my daughter because she don't want to listen. Like, hopefully she picks Father's Day and understands the listen, and she's like, I'm going to be nice to Dad today.
Right.
But, like, maybe just wake up, wife cook breakfast, and then just live like a regular Sunday after that.
There you go.
You mentioned talking to Chris and getting things set up for the network and your show and whatever. So can you just tell us what you got going on with your shows, the network, the Off the Ball Network, and then just everything? Kind of let the listeners know what's maybe something we could expect if you want to share and stuff like that.
Yeah, so actually it's crazy. I've actually taken a step back from my own show just because some opportunities come up, and I'm trying to make sure everything goes right there. So it's like, and then, Steven being gone on Breaking the Game, I help Austin out. So it's been a lot to balance. Obviously, newborn, I don't just have the time. So I haven't done a show in a while. I'll probably do one here in the next couple of days. But as far as the network goes, I mean, we just got that opportunity to be the official 2K League show on Dash Radio on the Nothing But Net channel. That started this week. So every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we'll be doing that. If y'all ever have time and want to find interest, to be honest, I didn't think I'd be interested in guys playing video games, but you get into it. Like, I play games a little bit myself. I know about 2K. I play it all the time, but you kind of get into it. You'll be surprised. But that's an opportunity. And then it's just some other things, some sponsorships. The sponsorship from Manscaped, that's been going good. We're trying to figure out how we can increase the sponsorship a little more so everybody really reaps the benefits from it. And then there's a few things that like I just don't necessarily want to put out there yet because it's like you don't want to give everybody false hope and then be like, what happened? But there's a few things that's gonna take the network as a whole, and not individuals, but us as a whole, to the next level. I mean, all of us kind of just created content, like, I guess really just because it's something we like doing. We love talking sports. For some of us, it's a therapy. It's the free time. So, it's one of those, like, there's some things that are being worked that if they do go through, like, you'll be seeing Off the Ball Network a lot more, and it could possibly be more than just social media sites also. So it's just always constantly trying to figure out. It takes a lot of time trying to figure out how we can be better, how we can make better opportunities for everybody, no matter what it is. Like, I get the 2K League wasn't the most interesting to everybody because it's like, I don't really want to cover. For me, I looked at it, I don't really want to watch these guys play video games, but it's the opportunity, which can bring other opportunities, which that's what we're working towards, is bringing other opportunities. I mean, hopefully one day we have our own show, our own Off the Ball Network on Dash Radio, have our own channel where we just produce a content on the radio constantly. So that's a goal of ours. And so I wouldn't say that's an unrealistic goal. Like, I really would say that's not an unrealistic goal to make that happen, and that would put everybody on a bigger platform. It's not something we've put in motion, but something we've talked about, and it's not an unrealistic goal. Like I said, there's a few things that we're working on, but nothing's definite yet, so I don't want to put that out there and have everybody. But we've definitely been doing a lot of stuff. I mean, we've been a network for about 6-7 months now, maybe 8 months. Just added guys, and it's like the more we add, the better it gets. Like, ever since adding y'all, like, we just add. Everybody has made us better. So it's like the day one guys that we started with is like, yeah, it's cool. We've been here since day one, but like, we couldn't have grown without adding you guys and some of the new guys, Kenneth from Shooter Shoot, Josh, like from Bench Warmers and Burners. Like, there's a bunch of guys we add. We couldn't be where we're at because it's not just us they're looking at. They're looking at everybody that represents the network, and they love what we're doing over here. So, like, it's always appreciation to you guys for staying consistent every Sunday. Like that's my biggest thing. I pay attention to what everybody else doing because consistency matters, and it's like people are watching you guys because y'all represent Off the Ball Network, and y'all are bringing eyes to our shows and stuff like that. So it's just one of those, like, we got some great things going. I know that much. Like, we really have great team. It's like a family environment. We really got some great things going.
And that's what we call a teaser, as great things coming. So make sure you stay tuned, all of our listeners out there, and just checking out the show, see what else is coming down the pipeline on Off the Ball Network. And we're just glad to be a part of it, man. It's been great just to be a part of the team. So, all right, let's transition a little bit before we let you go and get into some specific sports topics. We talked about your love of the Buckeyes. We won't bring up the national championship game last year.
Oh, we don't want to talk about how the SEC just keep that. Well, you might as well. You're down there in Corpus Christi. You might as well jump on the A&M bandwagon. You can.
Nah, I'm good. I'm sticking with my Buckeyes. I'm good.
Well, speaking of sticking with them, it seems like, every year you guys are going to be right in the kind of thick of the discussion for, the top 4 teams or national championship contender. But I think what everybody's looking at is now who's going to be the quarterback. You guys are going to have all the talent in the world at skill positions and on the interior line and things like that. But who's going to be the quarterback for the Buckeyes going into this year? Who should we be looking for? And do you think you guys will be right back up there in the playoff discussion?
To answer the quickest question, the playoff discussion, yes, I do. We're still just as talented as everybody else. And to be honest, it's the same 5 to 6 teams that are equally talented. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma. It's pretty much those same teams that are more talented than everybody else. I don't care. Like, yes, Bama's in the SEC, but they run the SEC. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like, LSU is behind right there, but Bama does. When it comes to football, they run the SEC. They run through it just like everybody else. And Ohio State runs through the Big Ten, whatever. Oklahoma typically doesn't struggle in the Big 12. There's those dominant teams. Obviously, Clemson has it the easiest over there in the ACC.
Yeah.
But as far as our quarterback, if I took a guess right now, and I don't know how much of a guess it would be, just reading articles and reporters. I know a guy who covers Ohio State who actually told me that the expectation is C.J. Stroud will probably be the quarterback. I don't know what that means, though. I'm afraid because I look at the J.T. Barrett and Cardell Jones situation, and I don't want that to be this situation. Whoever you pick, I think you have to give a fair chance. And whether it's a good season or a bad season, you can't give them, we're waiting on you to play one bad game, so it's next man up. You're never going to win a national championship with that. Maybe you get through the Big Ten, maybe not. That year with Cardell Jones and J.T. Barrett, we struggled. We hung with University of Hawaii hung with us. Like, that should never happen in a million years. But it was we have packages for J.T. Barrett. We have packages for Cardell Jones. So I think C.J. Stroud will be the starter. I know Kyle McCord has actually, impressed a lot of people, but he's a freshman, and you typically don't see freshmen start at Ohio State at quarterback like that. Usually, we have tenured guys who've been there for 3-4 years, and they're on their last year. The freshman will start his sophomore year. But all those guys, the Kyle McCord has an advantage because all those guys don't have experience. C.J. Stroud was a backup last year. Jack Miller was a backup last year. Obviously, having Justin Fields. I just think it'll be C.J. Stroud, and I think the problem in today's college football is if C.J. Stroud, whoever's named the starter, if it's Stroud or Miller, I think the other one transfers at the end of the year. Yeah. Because you look at, if Stroud starts, you have a freshman who you want to get in there in Kyle McCord, even if it's his junior and senior year. We just recruited the number 1 quarterback in the country coming in next year as a freshman. We have our eyes on Archie Manning over there in New Orleans. We're looking at recruiting him for the year after. So one of those guys will have to – transfers like free agency nowadays. The transfer portal is college football free agency. So I just feel like whoever loses that battle will probably end up transferring because C.J. Stroud and Jack Miller are in the same class. So if you didn't beat them out this year, do you think you're really going to beat them out next year and you add another quarterback to the competition? So I see that being a problem within Ohio State. It's a great problem to have. Sure. But I see that in a lot of position groups is transfers. We've seen it with our wide receiver, Jameson Williams, transferred to Alabama. I said he was going to be a guy on the lookout to transfer, but I see we're starting to get so deep at wide receiver and quarterback. Those are my 2 key positions where I'm other teams should be looking at who they want. They should be considering, do they want C.J. Stroud after this season? Do they want Jack Miller? Because I think one of those guys are going to transfer. But I would say it would be C.J. Stroud. I think he just fits how we run the offense. He's a scrambling quarterback. We don't make the greatest NFL quarterbacks. Actually, we don't make any good ones. I can't even say the greatest. We don't make any. I think Justin Fields will change that narrative. But I think C.J. Stroud, like, we just run a certain type of system, and I think he fits it better than Jack Miller. We don't really have pocket passers. That's why, like, Dwayne Haskins was one of the first ones who was a true pocket passer, and he lit it up. But at the end of the day, it was just something about him that didn't fit. But even he was kind of mobile. Cardale Jones was kind of mobile. Joe Burrow ended up getting a lot of mobility at LSU. I didn't see that from him at Ohio State, so that kind of threw me off. I almost wish we would have kept him, but at the same time, like, it landed us Justin Fields in a sense. So, but yeah, I think Justin Fields will change the narrative. I'm hoping he changes the narrative on Ohio State quarterbacks because we have great college quarterbacks. Like, you go down and, like, maybe we don't have top 10 historically, but you talk about some of the quarterbacks we had and, like, their names will stick out in your head, how they killed college football in their era. From Terrell Pryor, Braxton Miller, JT Barrett. You know, you look at the Big Ten records, he's got all the Big Ten records, and that's Drew Brees, who formerly held those records from Purdue. So you like, oh, he had to have been a heck of a college football player. Just most of our guys don't translate to the NFL. But yeah, I do think C.J. Stroud will be the starter. And I'll be comfortable with going for a national championship with him as a starter. I mean, Ryan Day will make the right decision. Whoever he picks, I believe, can lead us to a national championship, or at least the college football playoffs. So I'm just excited to see. I want them to finally make a decision so we can know and really know who we're getting for a whole season.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is not on the rundowns. Hopefully you don't get too mad at me, but we were talking about that quarterback situation. I had to ask, and you brought up Quinn Ewers, number one player coming out of high school this year. I mean, he's going into his senior year now. Number one player on, I think, 24/7 Sports, ESPN. I think Rivals, all three of them have it as their number one player. Whoever's the quarterback this year, are they just holding the spot till Quinn gets there?
That's a good question. I don't know. Like, Ryan Day is like a quarterback whisperer in a sense. Like, he does great with quarterbacks. But, like, I don't say never. I don't want to say, like, never go try and get the best recruit you could get. Like, you're flooding a quarterback room, but for what? Like, Ohio State typically has a stable quarterback room. They have a guy, and then he plays his sophomore and junior year, and they have a freshman who's going to be a freshman when that guy's a junior or senior. And, like, it's like passing of the torch all the time. You've seen the mix-up with Cardale Jones and JT Barrett. Like, once JT Barrett got hurt, we won the national championship with Cardale Jones. Now it's like, who should be the starter? I'm afraid that's going to be the problem. And, like, is it possible that C.J. Stroud, if he's the starter, is it possible that he's holding the torch just to pass it to Quinn Ewers? And I don't know, because we don't really start freshmen at quarterback. But, like, if we did, it would be the number one quarterback in the country.
Have you seen the film on this kid? He's pretty good.
He's amazing. I mean, the fact that I'm surprised we were able to steal him from Texas, if I'm not mistaken, because he's from Texas. And we were able to steal him in a loaded quarterback room and looks loaded for the future. And, like, we're looking at Quinn Ewers, and then we're looking at Archie Manning. We're looking at him to come in the year after. So it's like, do you really want all these quarterback competitions? Or especially if these guys commit to Ohio State, they know what they're getting into. If they sign, they're going to compete. You got to compete. But you're going to have like an imbalance. And I seen how that did one year. The year after winning a national championship, we looked like we pretty much had the same team and didn't look the same. So I don't want to see that. I'd like to see C.J. Stroud if he's the guy for 2 years. But at the same time, if he's not performing, you do have plenty of guys to figure it out. So, but I do think I think that's a great question. And Ewers could be that guy that kind of changes the narrative of freshmen starting at Ohio State. Like, he really could be that guy.
Yeah. Well, okay, now let's get to the question I was supposed to ask. One of the more recent great, Ohio State's had some good coaches, Woody being the best, but Urban Meyer won a national title there, and now he's the head coach there in Jacksonville. Does he succeed there? He's got Trevor Lawrence, right? Like, I think that guy can run his offense. No, he doesn't. Okay.
No, he doesn't. He's made some wrong moves already that, like, you haven't even coached.
Come on. The Tebow
like,
move.
to me, the Tebow, I think we could talk about that all day, but I think that was a bad move as a coach, especially when you realize the players don't like it. Like, he hasn't played football in 7 years? Like, football is not the sport that you take 7 years off and think, like, even though he's 33, so there's guys playing in the NFL. He's like 33, 34. There's guys playing in the NFL, but they've been taking that beating constantly, since they were 20. You don't get away from football, get out of pads for 7 years, and really think you could go out there and your body's just built for that kind of beating. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care, how the guys who lift the most weights be the guys who be the most injured a lot of times when you talk about football. Doesn't mean they can take a hit the right way. So I don't like that situation. And then the one of the assistant coaches that he hired, everybody had a problem with him in his past. And I mean, if you know it's a problem within the organization, you continue to do it anyway. Urban's a very my way or the highway. I mean, you look at his tenure in Florida. I mean, let's just be honest. He had a lot of bad boys on that team. Guys were getting arrested constantly. Obviously, Aaron Hernandez is like the most famous bad boy on that Gators team. But he had a lot of guys just drug issues, smoking weed, couldn't stay out of jail. So it's his way or the highway. And if he wins, he wins. But the NFL is different, and there's not a lot of college coaches that we've seen be that successful in the NFL. I guess Pete Carroll, but even you're starting to see the downfall of him a little bit. Like, you're starting to see there's some Russell Wilson doesn't like his system, things like that. I'm not saying he's a terrible coach. I still think he's a great coach. He keeps Seattle in the above 500 column every year, the competitive in the NFC West. But I don't know if Urban Meyer, like, his whole system, everything he did was perfect to be a great college coach. The type of quarterbacks he had, none of them were good in the NFL. But they were all great. I mean, Tebow's one of the greatest quarterbacks one of the greatest college football players that have ever played football. And he was also terrible in the NFL. And you look at, like, that guy, the greatest college football player, didn't go number one. Like, he didn't go number one. People had questions about him. He snuck into the first round. So I don't think Urban Meyer's system is going to be fit for the NFL. I mean, you do have Trevor Lawrence, so you have an advantage there. I think Trevor Lawrence will be successful within Urban Meyer's system, but I just don't think his mentality is built for a rebuild in Jacksonville and be successful. But there's not expectations coming out of Jacksonville either. Even with Trevor Lawrence, the expectations don't ruin Trevor Lawrence's career.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Well, and they, I guess if one thing is plays into their favor, that division, and I say this as a Titans fan, is pretty winnable. I mean, with all those teams, nobody is just head and shoulders above the rest, and there's no team out in that division that's just like, hey, this is going to be the world beaters for the next 5 years. So they at least kind of have that going where they could sneak in.
Well, they're definitely still better than Texans.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't be worse than the Texans, but
right.
It's even like the draft in the ETN, like, there were so many players that could have helped you win. Like, it's a running back. You just had a very good running back that was undrafted last year. Had a really good rookie season that replaced Robinson, that replaced Fournette, and you go and get Etienne when there were a lot. Like, there were so many defensive guys, offensive guys. There were so many players that will make a difference. And Travis Etienne could very well make a difference day one. But, like, it's the running back position. With certain players, and there were certain players that were sitting out there that you could tell, like, that was an Urban Meyer decision. That was this is my call. I want my offense as potent as possible. I think they're putting him at wide receiver in rookie camp. So I think, like, he sees some versatility in him. And I think he looked at Etienne and was like, he's Curtis Samuel.
Travis Etienne's going to be his Percy Harvin in the NFL.
Well, he's going to be like Curtis Samuel. Like,
yeah.
He might be even better. He could be better, but I think he's going to be that Curtis Samuel role. Play a little bit of running back, but maybe be that slot wide receiver. I mean, that's what got Curtis Samuel very successful. I mean, he's not the greatest wide receiver or anything, but his role, he's great in his role. So I could see Etienne being maybe a little bit better version of that. But there were so many guys available at that point in time at positions of need that you really needed, that him going Etienne, that was an Urban Meyer call. And I like it. Etienne's good, but you could have went defense or something, or another guy to protect Trevor Lawrence. You always protect your investment. I'm big on that also.
Absolutely. All right, last topic we'll get in with you here, and then we'll let you go. NBA playoffs have started. We were just talking about it at the very beginning of the show. The Hawks knocking off the Knicks, and in that series to go up 1-0. There's been a couple other games, and I think we've got the Grizzlies and the Jazz finishing it up tonight. Just any wisdom that you want to bestow on our listeners in terms of the playoffs? I'm not saying you have to make any predictions necessarily, but what are your thoughts on going into the NBA playoffs?
One thing, so since most, except the Grizzlies and Jazz, we've all seen game one of every series.
Yep.
Don't count LeBron James out. Don't let today's performance against Phoenix, oh my God, the Lakers are in trouble. LeBron does this. He has a history of doing this. He usually loses the first game of the series and a lot of times wipes away from a team that just shouldn't be out there with him. And then, like, my thing for the playoffs, a lot of people's legacies are on the line, I think. So that's what I'm looking at. Like, I think Giannis has a chance. He doesn't have to win a championship, but I think he needs to at least make a conference finals appearance or win his conference and go to the finals. But he has a chance to put himself in the best player in the league argument. I mean, we're looking for guys. If you still think LeBron, like such as myself, you still think LeBron's the best player in the league, we're looking for who's that next guy to take the torch. Obviously, like, you got KD and Curry, but they're getting up there in age. So I think a lot of guys can cement some legacy or start their legacies. I think LeBron, if he wins a fifth championship, it makes the GOAT argument a little more entertaining. If you think Jordan's the GOAT, and it's fine, I respect it, but it makes it a little more entertaining. 5 championships, 11 appearances, 5 finals MVPs. You could go down the line. Another guy is Chris Paul. I think he has, we know he's one of the greatest point guards we've ever seen, but like he doesn't have that championship. He doesn't have that overall playoff success that we'd like to see. And I mean, I guess Phoenix does have a chance of, second best team in the Western Conference. I guess you can't count them out. And then Brooklyn, I think all eyes should be on Brooklyn. All these guys can say what they want about, there should be no pressure. And if they don't win a championship, it's fine. Because Miami didn't win one the first year the Big Three got together. I get that, but it's different. Because the way the league is built, like, that might be the best Big Three we've ever seen assembled as far as scoring. Like, Kyrie, James Harden, and Kevin Durant. We talk about, like, Wade, LeBron, and Chris Bosh. Wade, after, like, year 1, year 2, he started declining because of injuries. There's no excuse why Brooklyn should not at least play in the finals. If you look at them across every other team in the Eastern Conference, they're the best team in the conference. Against Philly, against Milwaukee, against Miami, however you want to look at it. And then if you look at them, you probably think maybe the Lakers and Clippers are the only teams that maybe could beat them, period, in a 7-game series. So all these guys on ESPN and all that, it doesn't matter, they'll be fine. Like, Kevin Durant isn't 25. James Harden isn't 25 years old. Kyrie's the youngest guy at like 28. These guys are in their 30s. They don't have, KD and Harden are always hurt. They don't have these longevity years that, like, stop comparing guys to LeBron. Stop comparing football players to Tom Brady. Those guys are like, you'll probably never see them again as far as being that great for that long. So that's one thing I hate. And so don't look at Kevin Durant and be like, well, he's 33. He got to about 38. He doesn't. He's probably not going to be great at 36, 37 years old, and there's no knock on him. Jordan wasn't. None of those. Kobe really wasn't. He started dealing with his injuries these last few years. Like, the expectations that guys should be in year 18 and still being able to win championships, like, that's not going to happen. Just like the expectation that a quarterback could go back-to-back. We think Tom Brady could win another Super Bowl at year, 20, 21, 22, something like that. That's not a realistic thing for any other quarterback to ever play the game. So I do think all eyes should be on Brooklyn, and I think there should be a lot of pressure on Brooklyn. They went to buy a championship, so let's see if that money pays off.
That's right, absolutely. Well, we'll find out over the course of the next couple of weeks, and look forward to crowning a champion. And I'm sure all you guys at Off the Ball Network will have a lot of hot takes and good takes on the playoffs the rest of the way. But Mo, man, we appreciate the time, man. I'm glad we finally worked out where we could get you on the show and worked out for everybody's schedule. And we just appreciate getting to know you and having you on the show, and look forward to hearing all the good stuff coming down the line from Off the Ball Network.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all for having me on. Like I said, I watch y'all every Sunday. And I genuinely enjoy, like, I support everybody and I genuinely enjoy it, but like, I look forward, like, I love y'all's show. I love the dad's part implemented to the sports part. Like, you know, y'all have done something I want to do. Like, y'all had your wives on and let them talk. The Mother's Day episode, you've done it before where they help co-host and things like that. So it's stuff like that. Like, y'all have that really get to know us kind of show, you know. So I do genuinely, like, enjoy watching it. I pay attention to what y'all say, but y'all aren't the show I go to for hot takes. Like, y'all are mild. You guys speak what you see, but I don't have to look at y'all and be like, what crazy are they going to say today? Like, I don't be like, oh my God, they're going to, like, you know, Cruise Island or something where it has to be off the wall, some crazy stuff that only they mindset. Like, y'all are just, it's a great show. Like, I really do genuinely love watching y'all show.
Well, we appreciate that, man. Now, the only hot takes we have around here is that Kyle knows everything about football because he played college football. That's the only hot take.
I remember
on this show.
that argument, and that was actually hilarious. I found that very hilarious. It was funny.
It's not true, but it's
very.
We'll let Kyle continue.
Everybody who plays football feels that way, though.
That's right.
Like especially if you played in college. Like once you get to that, like after high school playing in college, if you feel like you were able to continue your career there, they do feel like I know everything. I play college football, like because most people don't play after high school. Like it doesn't continue.
We don't feel that. We know that. See, that's
like. Any guy who played after high school who had any type of, because after high school it's over for most everybody. Basketball, you still can play pickup games, get respect in men's leagues, but like football, it's over for the most part. I mean, flag football, whatever. But a lot of guys I know who play college football, like I know everything about football. You didn't play college football. You weren't out there in the workouts, and I'd be like, you right, but I do have eyes. Like, you know, I do see things. Like we just take it a little different. But yeah, I do appreciate y'all for having me on.
Absolutely. He's Mo Murphy of Up in Flames and the Off the Ball Network. We're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back to finish the show. We'll see you guys in just a second.
Coming up next week on Dads Watching Sports, the dads discuss the normal dad life topics, and then with capacity crowds making their way back into our lives at sporting events, the dads begin our next bracket. That's right. We do a bracket for the best venue in sports. That and more next week on Dad's Watching Sports.
We're back here on Dad's Watching Sports, presented by Manscaped. Michael Draper and Kyle Castles just joined with by Mo Murphy of the Off the Ball Network. Mo, thanks again for joining us on the show. It's great to have him on to hear talking about dad life and sports. And even though he's a Buckeyes fan, Kyle will let that slide.
I mean, he can be a Buckeyes fan all he wants, the SEC. And I know he said Alabama runs the SEC, but let's be honest, like Georgia's right there with them. LSU won a national title 2 years ago. A&M with Jimbo's got them going in the right direction. Mullen down there at Florida. Like we're more than just Alabama. It just happens that Nick Saban's hard to beat.
Didn't you forget a team, Kyle, in your SEC?
I'm sorry. Who you want me to talk about? We got Mississippi State Bulldogs, Mike Leach, the Pirate.
Yeah.
Is that better? Is that what you're looking for?
Something like that. All right. We're kind of running over on time, so we'll probably get out here pretty quick. Kyle, I don't know if you happen to hear our last commercial about what's coming up next week, but we've got a new bracket that is going to be coming out, and I'm very excited about this. You know, fans are starting to pile back in stadiums. I don't know if you happen to catch any of that Hawks-Knicks games, but the Garden was packed, and it was awesome. I'm not a Knicks fan, but to hear a basketball arena, you know, they've got the keyboard guy or the organ guy doing the dun dun dun, and then like the defense, and oh man, it just gets my blood pumping. And so thinking about that, the best sports venue bracket. Any early thoughts? And this could be like, I mean, this could be like St. Andrews Golf, like this. We could interpret that a lot of different ways. It could be Wimbledon. I mean, like there's going to be a lot of work put into this.
I mean, there's a lot of different ways it can go. I mean, if you start talking about historic, you know, you start to look at baseball, and you got like old Yankee Stadium and Ebbets Field and that kind of stuff. You got Wrigley Field that's still standing and still hosting games. If you're talking about just atmosphere, like you've been to Bryant-Denny, I've seen Bryant-Denny. That atmosphere is amazing. Blacksburg, Virginia, with Enter Sandman. Like, I've watched just those videos and get the goosebumps. Again, you can go historic in college football, and you got Notre Dame Stadium, the big house, right? Those Death Valley and Baton Rouge, man, I have no idea how we're going to narrow this down to 64. This may be the longest bracket ever, because
I know we might have to do like 136 or whatever the
I have no clue how this is gonna.
It's gonna be awesome. That's all that really matters.
It is. The fact that we're going to narrow it down to one, people are going to be, quite frankly, pissed when we do this, because there's going to be so many places that we eliminate on the way there.
And that's what I'm so excited about. And that's my hope, is that we get everybody's opinion on this leading up to it. And so I haven't really thought about what that's going to look like. Honestly, I think maybe we use the next week's show to kind of build that and take some suggestions, and then we'll kind of launch it maybe going forward. And we'll do this over the course of a couple of shows here as we narrow down to the number one venue in sports. And I see Kenny Castle said, I'll have to go back and watch what I missed. He was interesting. Mo was a great guest. And Kenny, I can guarantee you a venue that will not be on our bracket, and that's Vaught Hemingway Stadium or Scott Field. I'm sorry.
Well, neither one of them might need to sneak on there.
I just can't. I love the Bulldogs, Davis Wade Stadium, but it's just not. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Well, we had some other stuff on the show rundown, Kyle, but we're up against it, man. So we'll table some of that stuff for next week. But it's been a good show.
It has been hang on. I'm going to throw it out here, because you said we were going to do it every single week till we got somebody from there on the show. I will at least mention All Pro Dad.
All Pro Dad, that's right. No, we can talk about this really quickly, because this was a good article. And Mo actually talked about this. He talked about that balance of being a dad and work and sports and life and all this stuff. Yeah. And this article from All Pro Dad was about stop trying to find that balance, because it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I totally agree. The last piece of advice, or whatever they called it, was be creative in trying to find a way to have that time with your family. I think that's the best piece of advice in the whole article, is just be creative in finding your time to spend with your wife and your kids. And the one that they didn't have on there, and maybe it's kind of tied through all of this, is just be intentional.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, Lauren and I, we intentionally, one weekend a month, we go and have a date night. And I know there are other couples that do it twice a month or once a week or whatever. We do it once a month. We go out, we have a nice dinner, and try to find something kind of fun to do. And we throw axes and all kind of stuff on date nights. That being intentional in that, I think that kind of is the thread that ties all of those together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree, because if you are intentional, like you said, everything else should kind of fall in place. I like the be creative thing as well. I think that the example the guy used was like, even on business trips, like there was a business trip he went on, he pulled his child out of school and took him with him. And, you don't have to take your kid on a business trip, but you could. I'll give you an example. Had we been here last week and I've been in Florida, we had an event with the Y going on in Nashville, and they wanted some kids to be there. So I planned on taking our kids out of school and taking them with me to that event for the day, and just having them with me for the day. Obviously we ended up not being here, but I think that's definitely some good advice. And I appreciate you holding me to my All Pro Dad topic of the week, because we've gained some interaction with them, Kyle. They are liking all of our comments and our tags and everything. So we're well on our way.
Well, yeah, going back, Family Matters from the early 90s, Steve Urkel asking Laura Winslow out every day, I'm wearing you down, baby.
That's right. We're wearing them down until they say yes. So, all right, well, we got to get out of here. It's been fun. Again, thanks to Mo Murphy from Up in Flames and Off Ball Network for joining us. But we will see you next week with more Dads Watching Sports. Y'all take care. We'll see you next week.